So now what I want to do is go to the Cypher code that we worked on previously and change our for loops to range-based loops. I just want to mention that because so here's the Cypher code. So I just want to mention that because we have character arrays in our Cypher code, there are some different ways that you can work with character arrays that you can't necessarily work with, say, an integer array or a double array. But we're just going to assume that this character array is like any other array for this particular example, just so you can see how this works with the range-based for loops. So basically what we have going on here is this is code for a Caesar cipher. So we're asking the user for a password that has 6 characters, and then what we're doing is we're shifting 3 character shift. So basically what that means is it's going to replace the password with characters that are shifted 3 ahead from the character that we have. And maybe I'll just run this so you can see what it's doing. Alright, so we run this. It says please enter a 6-letter password using capital letters only, and then the password will then be encrypted. So let's just enter A, B, C, D, E, F. So what this does, it's shifting each letter by 4. So our encrypted password is D, E, F, G, H, I, and then the original password, and then it converts it back, it decrypts it back to the original password. And I need to take this off. So let's go run this again. So A, B, C, D, E, F. So the encrypted password is D, E, F, G, H, I, and then your original password is A, B, C, D, E, F. So let's go back to this code. So I just want to show you what it's doing, and then we'll change the for loops to the range-based loops. So the first loop is getting the password from the user, so that's here. So we have a regular loop. Well, actually, take a step back. So up here we've declared our character array, and this is the length of the password, or it has the number of elements that are in the password, 6. We have a regular for loop that's reading in values and storing them to the password array. We have a loop that displays the password. We have a loop that encrypts the password using this formula. We have a loop that displays the encrypted password. We have a loop that decrypts the password. And we just have this loop again that displays the password again. So what I'm going to do is change all of these for loops to range-based loops so you can see how they work. And I'm going to start with the display password loop just because that one doesn't require a reference variable. So we'll do this one first, and then after this one we'll do the one that requires a reference variable. So we need a range variable, and the range variable needs to be the same data type as what we have stored in our array. We have characters in our array, so we need to do a character range variable. So I'm just going to call this a range variable, and then we need to give it the name of the array. The name of the array is password. And then what we're going to do is instead of having cout with the array and the index, we're just going to cout the range variable, or the name of the range variable, because what's going on is the range variable is getting a copy of each element in the password as this for loop steps through the array. So since the range variable just has a copy, we just need to cout the range variable for each iteration of the loop. Okay, and this is for this code is going to be identical for the other loops where we're displaying the password. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this to my other loops that are displaying the password. So this one is displaying the encrypted password. I'm just going to copy and paste this range variable loop, or this range-based loop, into here. And then I have the code for decrypting the password, and then I'm displaying the password again, so I'm going to copy and paste this loop here too. So these loops to display the password are all the same. Now let's do the loop where we are getting the password from the user. So this one we're going to need to use a reference variable because we're changing the array. If we weren't with these loops where we're just displaying the password, we're not changing the array, so we don't need a reference variable. But the ones where we're changing the array, we need a reference variable. So we're going to have char, and then our reference, we're just going to make the range variable a reference variable with the ampersand, and then we just give it the name of the password again. And then when we do the cin, we're going to be reading in the password, but we're going to give it the name of the range variable here instead of accessing the array directly. So this range variable is a reference variable, so this reference variable can change the array from the loop. Okay, so that's that one. Now let's do the range variable for the loop that's encrypting the password. So for this one, we need a reference variable again because we're going to be changing the loop. So we have char reference variable, and I'm just going to call this range variable, and then we give it the name of the password again. And then down here, everywhere that we have the password count, we're going to change that to range variable. So right here too, in our formula, this is just going to be range variable. So this is going to change range variable with this formula, and since we have a reference variable, this is going to store whatever value this comes up with directly into the array. Now let's do the range variable loop to decrypt the password, so that's this one. So this is basically going to be the same thing as the one to encrypt the password, except now we have a different formula. So this one, we need a reference variable for this one as well because it's going to be changing the array. So we have char and then reference variable, so range variable, password. And then we're just going to change this password count to range variable in both places again. So here and here. Range var. Okay, so I think we've changed all the loops to range variables now. So let's go ahead and run this and see if it's working. Oops. Okay, need to compile it first. All right, so please enter a 6-letter password, so A, B, C, D, E, F. And it looks like it's still working, so your password is A, B, C, D, E, F. Your encrypted password is D, E, F, G, H, I. Your original password is A, B, C, D, E, F. So it looks like this is working with the range-based loops. So one thing I want to point out with this, so if we look at these range-based loops in this code, you can see why so these are actually used a lot for arrays, and the reason why is because it simplifies the code. These are much easier to look at and see what's going on and just read the code. So they're pretty nice. So if you don't, and so just remember the limitations are, if you need to know what your index is, you're going to have to use a counter in the loop. And also you can't step backwards through your array. So if you don't need to do either of those two things, the range-based for loop is a good option. If you just need a counter, you can add a counter. But if you want to step backwards through your array, you're going to need to use a regular for loop.